My guest is Tim Prendergast, who's CEO and co-founder of Evident.io. Welcome, Tim. Help us understand where Evident.io fits in the cloud security story, because we're hearing a lot from a lot of people, and we need to be able to differentiate when we hear.
Oh, absolutely. And cloud security is not a small segment. It actually covers a very broad set of services and capabilities. Evident really solves a need that we saw when we were actually operating one of the largest cloud deployments in the world. And the need that we saw most was this emergence of programmatic services and infrastructure. And so if you think about how we used to do network security in the sense of tapping IDS and IPS into the network, or having systems that holistically looked at your data center and gathered a bunch of data and presented it to you in a security context, Evident does a very similar thing for the cloud. But the way we do it is very different in the fact that we interface at the control plane as opposed to through the network level doing IP style scans, or the host level doing agent placement. We actually interface through the APIs of the cloud, which are really the definitive way that you actually manage and monitor your cloud services.
Are there enough limited, different cloud services that you can address them all?
I believe so. The way we've designed the product was really to take an approach of believing the future really consists of a large amount of API-driven services in clouds, and not a small set of static services that infrequently change. In fact, we see cloud providers putting out new services almost every day, and the need that we found was a service has to actually gather disparate data and do so relatively autonomously, and then provide that security context back to customers.
So the cloud's built all that in so they could have elasticity and the ability to quickly mirror things and grow things. How do you tie into it for security?
Well, what's really interesting is if you look at the motion that's happening in the industry, there's a lot of agility focus, right? And that means let me build tools and services around deploying faster, gathering data and feedback from the system faster, and then iterating to improve it. And we think security fits that model really well. And in fact, we can gather continuous data about how people are leveraging the cloud, the types of security controls and compliance rules they have in place, identity, encryption policies, all these things, and aggregate into a singular view so they can see not only how their whole security strategy is working in the cloud, but it's happening in almost real time because they're deploying hundreds of times a day. And you have to have a security solution that doesn't need someone in front of a keyboard or a console saying, okay, I can click the button now and gather the security data. You need it to autonomously happen, interpret it, and then present you results so that humans can act on that. And I think that it's a very DevOps-centric way of doing things by building automation around what is really a very flexible programmatic interface.
So how did you build that?
So we actually have a patent-pending technology around actually ingesting API data in an autonomous way. And that means when a customer signs up for our service, we basically interface directly at the API level. And then we walk this API repeatedly in a continuous loop, gathering back state of their infrastructure over all of time. So now you have that capability that you never had before of, let me rewind and see how I was doing with my security back on this date. So if you do compliance and need evidence, it's an awesome way to satisfy that. And then there's also a trend behavior that you can start to build, which is I have certain controls and patterns that we practice, and as I deviate from those, I need to actually be brought back in by a system, because sometimes humans just can't keep pace with thousands of controls and millions of resources that they populate every day in these cloud environments.
So then how do you impact those controls? How do you change them?
So what's really interesting about it is there's a couple of methods that we can use. The primary method we use is actually a guiding hand method, which is people really still want to have that control and comfort that they are the ones actually manipulating the controls and enforcing them fully. So we provide a fully guided remediation set of steps for everything that we find in the system, meaning you may say, I have open firewall ports that are accessible to the internet or to bad actor countries that we know about, and we'll actually guide you into locking those back down step by step. So there's some aspect of taking away the necessity to have dedicated security professionals that are trained on cloud security controls, and taking these DevOps, operations, and engineering experts and giving them just the feedback they need to actually go in and manage security on top of all the other operational aspects that they take care of on a day-to-day basis.
So it's a lot more than policy management.
It's
It
absolutely
sounds
a
like
lot more.
you've got some intelligence that you're feeding into
Yep.
it as well, if you can get to the granular level of IP addresses.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting is even as you go beyond IP addresses, there's a large number of services and they pop up every day in these cloud environments, and people are moving away from network-centric management techniques into managing things through APIs. And so you have these rich services doing storage and data warehousing and workflow management and real-time stream processing, and there's no IP address for any of those things. And so you can't place a host-based agent on them. You can't put an IDS kind of product in front of them. So you need something that actually interfaces and brings those capabilities through the API, the way those services live and manage, and have security context delivered the same way. And that's kind of what's unique about our solution, is that we actually interface the way the cloud was built and managed and bring that same security capability in through that same path.
Is this something that a potential customer would have to bring you in early while they're still designing what they plan to do in the cloud?
We see all aspects of customer behavior in the cloud and customer maturity. So we have a lot of customers who come in and are proactively looking for a solution as they migrate to the cloud. And they're saying, I have these great security products that we've used to use in our data center. We know that they're not going to take this big appliance and go shove it in the cloud. We need something that can replicate this behavior or give us superior behavior as far as security practice. And we satisfy a lot of those needs for customers. But then we have a lot of very cloud savvy customers that are running, million or even potentially billion-dollar revenue operations in the cloud. And they find the product and solution really interesting because we're giving this consistency and visibility they've never had before into their security, even back in the data center days, because there's no equivalent of a cloud control plane or an API management layer that covers your entire data center. As we move to software-defined data center, we're starting to see that emerge. But up until now, it's really only been in the public cloud space.
So is your service itself a cloud service?
We absolutely are.
Yeah.
We eat our own dog food and practice what we preach, which is a highly geo-distributed, highly resilient cloud architecture, all the best security practices in place, meaning we take security so seriously that we want to never be in a position where a customer has to think that we're not the strongest part of their infrastructure. And that really gives a lot of our customers comfort, especially if they're not necessarily cloud security experts. They could be security experts that have been doing this for 20 years, but this whole new dimension and paradigm shift to the cloud controls, they're really looking for almost a shortcut or an easy path to get there without adding a whole bunch more disruption to their day-to-day life because they're already very busy.
So it must be fairly straightforward to set up and get running.
We like to say we perfected the frictionless install. Our product goes from you visiting our website to being fully active in less than 5 minutes. And it's one of those things that we saw when we were practitioners. If you have a product that takes a long time to roll out, your success criteria often takes a backseat to, can I even get this thing deployed to play with it? And your trial runs out. And there's all kinds of horrible things that could happen. We want people to basically say, what's the shortest time to security ROI in the cloud? And if we satisfy that, the first checkbox is ticked, and you're already earning fans because I maybe have my lunch hour to try a product and see if it'll help me. And we've yet to come across a customer that's taken any longer. In fact, I like to throw the challenge out there is I'll buy a case of whatever your favorite beer or beverage is if it takes you longer than 5 minutes. And fingers crossed, I haven't had to deliver on that yet.
Yeah. So that's changing a lot of models on their heads right there. You don't have these extended proof of concepts. It's just try it, and it's buy it, try it, and then decide if it's what you need.
It's shortening that cycle from does a solution do what I need to do to seeing the results of your trial. And in fact, if we can do it on the phone with you, if you're in a different part of the country and just want an introductory call, we encourage customers to set it up and look and see, because we always say what you don't know that's happening in your environment is the thing that's going to bite you. Yeah. Everyone has an idea of the things that aren't necessarily perfect, but there's always surprises. And we call it evident for a reason. We really reveal everything so then you can make really strong data-driven decisions.
And is it utility pricing, like we're all familiar with?
It's a little bit different in that sense. So the pricing model isn't a per server because we cover a broad set of cloud services beyond just the virtual servers. It's also not a percentage of bill because that model doesn't necessarily scale well with some customers. So we went with a very cloud-centric model of a per API endpoint interface, and we call it per cloud account. So some people will partition their services and say, if I have Amazon Web Services, I have a dev, a stage, and a prod account. And I keep those universes separate so I can maintain integrity and different levels of security controls. And our product recognizes those 3 accounts as 3 unique endpoints. And we price based on that.
I love it. What else should I ask?
I think what's really interesting about it is how we think about the industry. And I think what's really interesting about how we think about it is we talk about that highly connected set of services and API-driven services in the future. We also see a world where sometimes servers may start to disappear from the things that you manage, just like data centers did. You see AWS Lambda, which is kind of a code pass, or you see like a Heroku or Elastic Beanstalk, and you just upload bundles of your code. We're really abstracting as an industry these non-differentiating capabilities away and giving you more powerful, elastic, resilient services so you focus on building really cool products your customers love. And I think security fits that model really well as well. And we'd like to say, wouldn't you like to get up in the morning and just go to the gas station, swipe your credit card, and get fuel for your car instead of having to go dig an oil well in the backyard? Mm-hmm. That's not your core focus. It's not your core competency, and it's not what you're good at. Sometimes security falls into that same area. You can get a really trusted security partner that's doing all the right things for you. Pay a commoditized service price for it, and then go really build the awesome product your customers know and love. And we have that resonating with a lot of customers.
What does it look like when I've already broken up my infrastructure between AWS and Azure and Rackspace, and are you the central council that binds them together?
So we have a very open data philosophy in the sense that we can give you a lot of insight and capability, but we don't say we're going to host all your data and keep a high level of data gravity. In fact, we like to say we're helping people operationalize security data as fast as possible. So we have a number of integrations where we actually put the data out into the systems that people need, because you have to understand that a lot of organizations that are moving to the cloud have been around for many years. They have investments in SIM tools and GRC tools and other monitoring and management tools. So we integrate out into things like PagerDuty to help operationalize the pages to customers. We also integrate out into tools like Splunk, where people are using a highly capable logging mechanism and SIM mechanism, as well as open integrations where customers can write tools around our API or a native SQS integration and put the data where they want to get it.
Cool. So what's next for Evident?
We have a whole lot of really cool stuff coming this year. I think what you're going to really see is us continue to deepen the level of service and capability inside clouds like AWS. And then you'll see us broaden the ecosystem and add some really cool capabilities that you can really only do in the cloud.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Great.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Thanks a lot, Richard.